Okay. Rosen in Maryland, the great WMAL. Go.
How are you doing, Mark?
Okay.
I don't believe either side. I think it's all a power play.
That's right. I believe it's just a power play.
Basically, yeah. I mean, you got the left side. They want to keep their money coming. They want their support coming from the unions. And the right, they want to try to stamp out the unions and make sure that the Democrat support goes away.
Let me ask you a question. What's going on in Wisconsin? How does that stamp out the unions? You know, there's more than the teachers' union. So how does that stamp out the unions?
I'll tell you the way I see it. For that.
No, I asked you a question. I'll ask you the question. How does that stamp out?
Answer it. Because the teachers are having all their rights gradually taken away from them. What are they?
These aren't rights. Let me explain something to you. Rights are in the Declaration of Independence. Rights are God-given. These are bargaining issues. These are not rights. You don't have the right to destroy your community by draining all the resources out of it. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's not a right.
Out of it. That's what you
Why are you going to keep mumbling on? That's not what I call it. It's the facts on the ground, pal. These pensions and health care plans are fantastic. They're outrageous. And local communities can't pay for them anymore. That's not a right-wing thing. That's not a left-wing thing. When people are losing their homes, when they're earning $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year and paying the equivalent of $80,000, $90,000 a year to other public employees, you know what that is, pal? That's injustice.
I lie.
You know, shut up, you idiot. I'm educating you. Somebody has to try. It's not a right-wing or left-wing thing when people are losing their homes, when people are losing their jobs, when people are losing their small businesses because they can't pay for it anymore. You understand that, dummy? Now get the hell out of here. Hey, the right-wing left-wing guy. Wait, a happy hour? It's Friday evening? Is that the problem? Big dummy. Where was he from, Mr. Call Screener? I can't remember. Maryland. Oh, gee, Maryland. I wonder who he voted for. The two left-wing nutjob senators? The left-wing nutjob governor? Oh, everything's so swell over there in Maryland. Yes, the liberals have the answer in Maryland. You know what it is? Just keep raising taxes so everybody leaves and moves to Virginia. We'll be right back. 1-1, hello, KABC land, where my son is listening. I want to tell you a little story, thanks to Examiner.com, by Dan Baltus. I want to tell you about Utah State Senator Robles. Mark, what's this have to do with us? Stick with me. Often referred to as a political newcomer, Utah Democratic Senator Luz, L-U-Z, Robles, Utah's first senatorial district, is described by legislative intern Drew Martinez as an immigrant from Mexico who came here in 1996 to attend the University of Utah, where she earned a bachelor's degree in business marketing and a master's in public administration. Martinez's January 15, 2009 blog post continues to detail an impressive list of local affiliations and boards served on by Senator Robles. The blog also concludes, she really is an exceptional public servant. She's not your typical Utah legislator. First, she's a woman, and she's a minority in both race and political party, quote-unquote. Now, intern Martinez leaves out some other facts that by all accounts were also unknown by voters during the election that pushed Senator Robles into the political arena. Indeed, Senator Robles is not a political newcomer at all. In fact, the senator is a seasoned veteran, having previously held elected as well as appointed offices in the Mexican government. It is important to note that Senator Robles is a naturalized United States citizen, and part of that process entails taking an oath of allegiance to the United States. We understand that. A chronology of Senator Robles' relevant political affiliations and career in the United States is she was appointed to the interim director of the Utah Office of Ethnic Affairs in 2005. She was appointed as the director of the Utah Office of Ethnic Affairs. I already said that. 2008, she became the Democratic candidate for Utah State Senate District 1. November 4, 2008, she's elected to the Utah State Senate. January 09, she's sworn into office. February 09, Robles, quote, conflict of interest and remuneration statement is received by the Utah Secretary of State. It lists only Zion's Bank as a potential conflict. What has not previously been reported or disclosed is the following chronology of her political career with the Mexican government. In 2005, she was elected through an electoral process conducted by the Consulate of Mexico to a 3-year term in the CCIME. The CCIME was an advisory commission created by Mexican President Vicente Fox and placed within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Mexican government. She held her elected position from 2006 through 2008. During her tenure with the commission, she attended at least 7 conferences, served as the coordinator of the CCIME Legal Affairs Commission for 3 conferences, as a member of the Political Affairs Commission for 3 conferences. Ms. Robles attended her 6th conference after having won the Utah Senate, and her 7th as an observer after being sworn into the Utah Senate. 3 of the conferences attended by Ms. Robles were held at the presidential residence in Mexico. During the November 2007 conference, Ms. Robles was the featured speaker. At the November 2008 conference, she was the moderator for the Mexican-American Legal Defense and Education Fund event. A review of the website and documents is replete with references to Senator Robles attending and participating in meetings, policy decisions, and other official functions, both while she was director of the Utah Office of Ethnic Affairs and after she had won election to the Utah Senate. Raises a very interesting question, doesn't it? Can you serve 2 masters? I mean, this seems very strange to me. She's elected to the Utah State Senate in November 2008, and she's a participant at these conferences through the campaign and even after her election, it would appear. And I guess we're supposed to celebrate all this. You know, something about this just struck me as not great. Bothered me a lot. How about you? I don't care if it's Mexico or Burma or Saudi Arabia or Russia or what have you. That just strikes me as very odd. I wonder how she'll vote on a whole host of issues. Don't you? Now, there was a great piece in the New York Slimes, believe it or not. I don't know how it slipped in, by Michael Lynch. This is very important. He says, as WikiLeaks' trove of diplomatic dispatches continues to trickle out, one recent release has caused quite a stir. A cable from an American diplomat who said he was told by a Saudi oil executive that both official estimates of Saudi oil reserves and their ability to meet global demand in the long run have been vastly exaggerated. In turn, many proponents of peak oil theory, the idea that the global rate of oil production has entered a terminal decline, have insisted that the cable confirms their view on resource scarcity. Actually, it does nothing of the sort. The Saudi executive Saad al-Husseini, a former head of exploration for the Saudi oil monopoly Aramco, has been making such claims for years. Finding them repeated in a confidential cable is news only to those unfamiliar with the field. His claims don't stand up to scrutiny. For one thing, according to the cable itself, Husseini said the estimates of Saudi reserves were exaggerated by some 300 billion barrels, but this is impossible. The Saudi government's estimate of proven reserves is 267 billion barrels. More likely, Husseini was referring to the claims by some Saudi oil execs that over the long term they expect to find 900 billion barrels in the ground. 51% of it will be recoverable. His point is this. Everybody keeps saying we're running out of oil. Now, one day we may, but that day is not today. Yet Saudi Arabia has much, much more in reserves than they're letting on. They're putting out a big lie. There was also an excellent story in CNS News that if we would actually allow offshore drilling in Alaska, Alaska would be equivalent to the 8th largest producer of oil in the world. I want you to think about that. The 8th largest producer of oil in the world. That's just Alaska. We don't even have to count Texas or Louisiana and so forth. That's just Alaska. Massive reserves have been found in North Dakota. So why aren't we going and getting this oil? Why don't we go get our own oil? Because they won't let us. Who's they, Mark? You know who they are. The people who work in our government, representing us, working so hard. Now, protesting in the streets, demanding more pensions and health care, that we should continue to subsidize them. Them, those people. They won't allow us to drill. Oh, and the great president. Him too. Primarily him. But Mark, it's not intentional. Poor guy, he's just confused. He's not confused. The oil companies make requests to the federal government to explore for oil. They have to get approval from the Interior Department and often the EPA before they can drill, or if they want to expand drilling. And if they don't get permission, they can't do it. So if there's not drilling going on off of Alaska or California or Florida or in the Gulf of Mexico or anywhere else, it's because our government is saying no. And put aside the environmental bullcrap. Our EPA's rules don't extend to any other country on the face of the earth. So all these locations where all these foreign oil companies and foreign governments are involved at a breakneck speed to cut deals, to sign contracts, to drill, to provide a supply of relatively inexpensive fuel to its citizens, goes on no matter what the Environmental Protection Agency does. And whatever pollution exists in Saudi Arabia or Red China or Venezuela doesn't stay over those countries. It moves all over the world. So the idea that we should punish ourselves, that our government should impose these obstructions on us is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Now, yes, there will be accidents. You want to know why? Because man isn't perfect. Machinery isn't perfect. Just like bureaucrats aren't perfect. But as I've said many times, we don't stop flying planes when we have terrible accidents. We don't stop using trains when we have terrible accidents. 40,000 or so people killed a year in automobiles. We don't stop driving because of that. And yet, for some reason, we have a terrible oil gusher far off in the Gulf Coast, and we shut the whole damn thing down. Why? Because it's an agenda. That's why. Now, Mark, I don't understand. So if the price of electricity goes up because the EPA is shutting down coal mines and making it much more difficult to actually do what needs to be done to produce electricity, or if we are denying ourselves our own domestic sources of fuel, how does that help Obama? How does that help Obama? It's very simple. He gets to make decisions over your life. The EPA, the Interior Department, all the rest of it become more and more powerful. More and more powerful over how you can live, over your mobility, over what's acceptable to them. That's what non-capitalism, that's what non-constitutionalism is all about. Tyranny. Controlling the people. Coercing the people. Repressing the people. That's what it's all about. And that's what they're doing. Just imagine, he picks up the phone, he tells the Attorney General of the United States, you know what, let's not defend the Defense of Marriage Act anymore. Look at all that power. Picks up the phone, calls the EPA administrator. Picks up the phone and calls the Secretary of the Interior. He can't do that. He can't do that if we control our own futures. And he can't do that to the private sector per se. So more power is concentrated within the hands of his own cronies. He can do it. And you have to keep in mind, he's a global citizen. Remember all that crap? That's right, he's a global citizen. You see, statism doesn't stop at the border. No, it doesn't. And you have to also keep in mind when Obama talks about fundamental transformation, as I've discussed so many times, including this week, that means he does not support or like or in any way embrace what exists. He wants to transform it. So he doesn't embrace capitalism, wants to transform it. He doesn't embrace the Constitution, wants to transform it. And that's what he's doing.